Facebook is overhauling its news feeds. The social media giant hopes that these changes are going to make visiting the site more fun and more personal.
People come to Facebook to connect with the people who matter to them. And over the next year,
Facebook released this video to help explain these changes. It wants the time that users spend on its site to be more meaningful. Matthew Braga is the CBC's senior technology reporter, is here to walk us through some of these changes. What is this? What are they actually doing?
So when you go to Facebook today, right, it's this mishmash of posts from friends and family, but also brands, publishers, pages that you've liked. It all kind of gets mixed in there. And what Facebook is doing is they're tweaking the mix a little bit so that things from friends and family will appear in that feed more often than all that other stuff. The idea being there that they want you to engage more. They want you to have more discussions. They want you to connect more with the people that you know in life in a way that they feel that all of that other content has been getting in the way of.
You know, we've seen them tweak these algorithms before. Most of those were in ways to try to enhance the monetization, to try to enhance their relationship with people that could advertise against this or get that data to use to advertise. Why are they doing this incarnation of it?
I mean, it's interesting you say previous attempts. I mean, this shift right off the bat is they've gone from trying to optimize for more meaningful content to more meaningful relationships, more meaningful interactions. It's
Right.
all sort of amorphous. Why are they doing this? I mean, if you look at sort of what Facebook has been facing over the past year, intense backlash, intense criticism over what its platform has allowed to spread, to thrive. Things like fake news, viral news, these like spammy pages, hyper-partisan stuff, hoaxes. I mean, you look at the way in which a Russian organization was able to use Facebook to sow disinformation and discord in the U.S. election. Facebook has this reputation among some people as being actively bad for democracy and bad for society. And you can see Facebook trying to push back at that in a lot of their messaging. They want it to be a good place, a place where you'll feel happy.
And I mean, that stuff is inevitably bad for your brand, which is bad for your bottom line, which is bad for all that other stuff. And I guess if this works, it's good for users. But like, I mean, we at On the Money use Facebook to try to use those algorithms to reach more viewers and to get our content out there. And there's a lot of businesses and shows and whatever it may be that use Facebook as sort of a business to reach consumers. How is this going to affect them as they try to do that?
Facebook has been unusually blunt about this, that those pages are going to suffer, that the reach, the engagement, the views, the traffic that sometimes Facebook posts can drive, we're going to see that shift, and a lot of pages, posts, perhaps news organizations like ours won't see the same amount that we've seen in the past. The other way that people have looked at it as well is perhaps that by reducing the number of so-called organic posts, so things that you post, you don't put money behind, by taking those out of the feed, it might mean that pages now have to pay more money to get sponsored posts, to get advertising, to appear in that feed than they have in the past.
It's funny, I talk to a lot of people who use Facebook every day that have no idea that businesses can pay not very much money to try to reach out, that is a growing part of Facebook's business of getting people to pay money to promote those posts to get them in front of a larger audience. This changes that pretty dramatically.
Yeah, and I mean, when you consider small businesses, smaller publishers, people who don't have that money to spend, what does this mean for them? Those are going to be the people who are going to, I think, be most impacted because they're just going to be pulled out of that feed, or at least appearing a lot less than they do now.
Good points as always, Matt. Thanks for this.
Thanks, Peter.
CBC's senior technology reporter, Matthew Braga. Wall Street wasn't impressed by the social media giant's announcement. Investors were caught off guard by this and hit the sell button pretty fast. Facebook shares ended the day down 4.5%. For more on the market's reaction, let's bring in Ophir Gottlieb. He's the CEO of Capital Market Laboratories. And you had talked about this specifically on this show not that long ago. What do you see is happening today? And more importantly, what's the why here? Why is Facebook moving in the way that they are?
Well, the why for the stock moving in this direction is just uncertainty. And uncertainty is just a really fancy word that we use in finance to say that the probability assigned to a good outcome is now lower, and the probability to a bad outcome is now higher. And so that's naturally going to take a stock lower. I think that there are two reasons Facebook is doing this, and I think your last guest covered it well. But there's one that hasn't been discussed a lot, and it's I think Mark Zuckerberg is now finally addressing his legacy. So in the world, in this book of the world, there'll be a chapter for Facebook or a chapter for Mark Zuckerberg. And right now, that chapter probably won't read very well. It'll probably read sort of as, how technology can be misused. And as Mark Zuckerberg comes into his adulthood, he has 2 children, I think he wants to change that legacy. And you say, well, who cares? I mean, I want to own Facebook stock. I don't care if Mark Zuckerberg cares about his legacy. Well, everybody cares because Mark Zuckerberg owns 60% of the voting rights for the company. And even as he divests his shares into his philanthropic initiative, Mark Zuckerberg controls Facebook. This company is him. And if he decides that they're going to move away from shareholder value to maybe something more focused around, let's say, socially responsible things or to uphold his legacy, that's what the company's going to do.
And listen, I mean, he got very rich off the deal. He made a bunch of shareholders very rich along the deal. It'll be interesting to see where he goes from here. And one of the last things that you and I talked about in what's going to happen with Facebook was around their use and gathering of that granular level of data and their ability to use that granular level of data to sell against and to give to advertisers to sell however they see fit. Is this the beginning of a move away from that granular level of data that, as you said, is probably, half the value of the stock right now?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you 2 possibilities, so it's not going to be very satisfying. One is exactly what we talked about before, that they just aren't going to be able to use this granular level of data, whether it's because it's going to be imposed by law or by just the pressure from the media, and that makes the stock worth a lot less. Okay, we can make that argument. We have made that argument. I'm going to try and make another argument, which is possible. Perhaps if there's more conversation on Facebook, that's a whole new world, a whole new sandbox for machine learning and data, and perhaps they actually learn more about their users because they're interacting less with outside content and more with inside content, and maybe that all of a sudden spawns a new machine learning algorithm and a new way to monetize the ads, including not letting publishers just get 15 million views from a post which isn't promoted because it won't be in the newsfeed unless they pay for it. So they're actually, that's why there is uncertainty. Like this actually could be good for Facebook. I'm talking monetarily, or it could be bad. It could be the catastrophe where granular data is now gone. And I just don't think we know, and so that's going to mean the stock price is going to come down a little bit.
And if you game out that situation where it's good for the company, is it good for different people involved in the company? I mean, if there's a group of advertisers that are using the company right now as a way to reach an audience and that, it's worth X amount of money to them, if they go in this new direction, is it them changing their strategy, or is it a new group of people that come in and use it in a different way? Or can we even say at this point? Is that too sort of off in the weeds?
Well, it's out there, but I mean, there is a nefarious way to look at this, and I can't help but go there. So you say, as of right now, before the news feed change, which articles are getting read the most that are not being boosted for pay, right? You'd say just large news organizations that people follow. So in the United States, it's the New York Times or the Washington Post or the USA Today, the Wall Street Journal, things like that. Let's say that gets taken away, and you want to get your articles out in front of people, you have to pay for it. Well, automatically, reputation goes away. And it's whoever's willing to pay. And that would actually make the news providers that most people trust less effective, and the news providers that people don't know more effective, because it takes away the value of reputation and just says, okay, who's willing to pay? Now, that's a pretty dark view of the world, but as I see it right now, without any other data, that's how I see it. I think there has become not a democratization of content, but essentially what has happened is it's raising the lower reputation news and lowering the higher reputation news, and I don't think Facebook meant to do that. Having said that, I don't think they make mistakes this large without thinking about it, so we're just going to have to see what happens.
And that's why we bring you on the show, Ophir. It's great to get your insight. Thanks so much for this. Ophir Gottlieb, CEO of Capital Market Laboratories.